I'm an earthworm woman. In the mornings, I fill my tanks by breathing the energy of the sea and tasting the power of the sun penetrating my skin. There's an air of no care, which comes with age, and I hold my head up proudly, liking who I've become. I'm not afraid of smells, or dirt, or to walk barefoot across the stones. Sometimes I wade through the shallow water just to embrace its fluid element, my hair often crazy and loose, being pulled by and flying in the wind. I can be glamorous if I want to, although makeup was never my thing. And I've learnt that life is for living, not fearing, and so I absorb it like a sponge.
Grand rising to everyone. I have to admit I have been a bit negative on the weather, and I was just chatting to my guest who's coming in shortly, Jeannie, and we'll talk about that. She said how we have to be, well, we'll talk about that. But yeah, good morning, Rahana. I hope your Melbourne weather is warm today. Well, no, I would hope it would be warm today too, but it's not. It's like 13. And yeah, they did a lot of work yesterday, put it that way. Yeah, and in the intro, it's all about warmth. I'm so desperate to be warm. Anyway, I'm just going to bring Jeannie on. Hi, Jeannie. We were just talking, about because I get really angry because I think they've actually taken now. They're taking the joy of the sun away. They're taking the joy of being able to walk in the morning and feel that, just what I say in that poem, feel the sun on my skin, and I think, wow, how many more things are you taking? But you were saying how, or you say how we sort of focus on it, we kind of almost.
Yeah, well, actually, my youngest daughter, we were walking the other day, and I was looking at the clouds, and like you, I was like, oh God, not again, this weather. And she says to me, Mommy, she says, dark clouds are just a spectrum. You can enjoy, and she's got, through the child's eyes, through a child's lens, to lean into that darkness, to appreciate. And I thought, okay, maybe I should reframe my mind and my energy and my frequency to just embrace the cold. And actually, we did embrace the cold. We went out camping, and it was meant to actually rain the whole time. Like we were camping, it was in October. But I have some daughters who are very much into belief of manifestation, like in a really positive way. And they're like, oh no, don't worry, every time we've gone on holidays, it's never rained on us. So as it turned out, it didn't rain on us, except for the one day when those 130-kilometre-hour winds were supposed to hit. And that was like the Wednesday. And we're sitting there, and I'm thinking, should we evacuate or not? Because everyone else was like running for the hills, like
they were. Yeah.
And I think I tuned out to a lot of the social media, and we didn't really have very good internet access. So yeah, so I deliberately didn't sort of add more Telstra data to my phone. So I just wanted to sort of disconnect. So when it all hit, I was like, oh, I should be on social media, just checking out, I should be on the bomb radar and doing all that. But I actually woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning, so we didn't evacuate. And I remember going to the toilet, and it was just perfectly still. It was just the most amazingly peaceful still. And I came back from the toilet, and as I came back, my light of my torch just, stopped working. And I opened the tent, got in, and it started bucketing down. And in that moment, I just really felt in my soul everything was going to be fine, not to worry.
Mm.
So we got up in the morning, sat and looked at the ocean, had breakfast very casually. And then about 10 o'clock, the ranger comes along and says, well, you know, I think you guys should evacuate to the local town because there's going to be wild storms and all of that, and, you know, 130 kilometre hour winds, and, you know, all our tents could be like, who knows where they would be.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
At the time we made the decision to pull down the tents. We actually never needed to, and we drove off. I drove to Apollo Bay because we knew there was this great sort of, there's a couple of really natural, organic-y shops, cafes there.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of imagined at that time sitting inside somewhere warm, watching the storm come down. But as it turned out, we sat outside for lunch, and we just basically waited and waited and waited. And there, I think my daughters had done some sort of anti-rain sort of song in the tent the night before, and us, we'd manifested it. And we waited for a few hours. We went up to the top of, you know, the lookout there, watched the clouds, and then I thought, oh, nothing's happening. Let's just go back. And we went back. We pulled up our tents, started raining again, had dinner, and I actually had to message a friend and said, you know, was that a hoax? Like, because you're so disconnected from everything.
Yeah, I think
it wasn't. It actually caused a massive lot of destruction.
Yeah, I think it was Geelong. It was closer that way.
And I sort of wondered, you know, how much of our energy are we feeding into it? And I actually had a LinkedIn connection who seemed to vanish from social media, who would do sort of anti-rain dances and, you know, like just manifest the clouds away. And I thought about it. I thought, well, it is a lot of our belief system, isn't it? Like, if we feel victimized, we're going to take on all of that energy aboard, and that's really what they want. I mean, I know it sounds very woohoo and everything, but at that moment, I did really think of evacuating and then receiving just this peace that everything was going to be okay. And I also remember, I think there was a time with the Florida, you know, like when I've been in hospital a few times, and really, really sick. And I remember just someone putting out on social media, Jeanee's in the hospital, really sick, pray, send you good thoughts and vibes. And I can remember in hospital at times where the energy just shifted all of a sudden from that sheer energy of people, you know, thinking about me.
I agree. I agree that we can become so swamped with the heavies and the bad stuff, but the fact is, I don't think it's cloud.
Yeah, no, it's
not cloud.
I mean, it's engineered, yes,
with the cover. And literally, like I said last week, I just happened to meet two more people on my page by looking in the sky, and I said, look, it's like you know, that kind of like a rainbow thing that happens in sinks. It was over the sun, and you could see it's a spectrum kind of thing. You could just see the cover, and I'm just getting so sick of it. It's like we've been going for weeks now with no proper sunny days, and it's all, you know, it's all obviously vitamin D. We need vitamin D. So how do we get that from the sun?
We just have to go out more. I think you have to sort of compensate for it. But Tucker Carlson, which is essentially mainstream media now, he had Dane Wigington on I think last week. Yes, I put it in my blog, the link to that, talking about weather modification. He runs Geoengineering Watch. I mean, it is fairly dark and dire. I'm not saying let's not do anything about it, but I mean, there has to be sort of a yin-yang sort of balance. Otherwise, we can become quite overwhelmed, you know, by this sense of fear.
That's it. I just don't like being cold, and I feel like it's always cold now still. But the other thing is, I get what you're saying. I just heard them flying as they were, like there was already this cover, and then there was another load of planes. Like, well, why are you here? There's no reason for you to be flying around here. Adding another layer, or who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of theories as to why, you know, they're doing it. You know, some of it thinks that, you know, it's to keep because of the reduced geomagnetic field being reduce, that they're trying to protect some of the systems by, essentially putting electromagnetic stuff in the environment. I mean, who knows? But I mean, there are people who I have heard that they're, of, friend of friend, or who not, that someone met someone who was a pilot who was spraying this stuff. So I mean, the people that obviously within our community are doing it. Like, it's not like some foreigners are coming here and
no, exactly.
It's a lot more than that. I mean, they've got like heart facilities, and they're messing with frequency. It's like, how do you combat that? That's the question, right? And what can you really do about it? I mean, most of the politicians don't want to hear about it, and many people will just think that you're completely crazy if you even talk about it.
I know. And so there's certain subjects I can't go near with certain people. Absolutely, totally. But it's always, the weather's a big conversation in Melbourne anyway, and now it's become like even bigger, I think. But
it's interesting though. There's a lot of experts in that field. I mean, it's not just fringe people who are just observing it. I mean, there's many scientists and experts who have provided sworn testimony. It's been going on for decades.
Yes,
and we haven't had really any shift within the political spectrum to do anything about it.
Well, we've got, it's worse at the moment. So the reason I asked you to come on as well, besides, it's always nice to catch up. You've been putting a lot of really interesting posts up, bringing a lot of things to attention. And I know you put them onto your blog as well, some of them. But what have I written down here? The one about the military in Germany, just a variety of things. And a lot of these, there was one particular one, it was a political woman who, the thing of how they're just telling us everything. You know what? Are we the only ones hearing it? I wonder.
Well, I think generally people feel like there's a sense that something is not right. I mean, we're looking at the auroras the other night, like, when do we see that before? Like, people are not twigging of how, not just how unseasonal the weather is, but we're just going out there looking at these auroras. Thinking, well,
there's a lot of things happening out there in the atmosphere. What's that? Oh, I've forgotten what's called now. The comety thing.
And of course, deaths. I mean, they're just, the ABS is put out. Someone sent me a link to something. The ABS says life expectancy hasn't changed yet. We can see all around us absolute carnage. I was speaking to a client, a website development client the other day, and his uncle suddenly died scuba diving. Autopsy is all a bit dodgy. But another friend, when I was on holidays, 2 people within her network had died, relatively young. So everyone's seeing this pattern happening within their life.
Do you talk to just, I don't know, when you say everyone, I just sort of talk mostly to people who are on the same page. I wouldn't bring those sort of subjects up with other people, like say for instance, whatever. But do you talk to regular people and hear them actually thinking, oh my, because we're not regular people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all pretty much in our own little echo chambers. But, I think in terms of the regular people, they are probably more conditioned by what the media is telling them. But even if you look at what the media is putting out there, it is quite damning. It's just whether they want to see it. And I think it's probably a little dark for people. Like, if you were to actually think about what happened the last few years, it's going to cause a lot of fracturing of their mental capability to be able to accept what happened and that they were fooled, right? All of us have that sense of, okay, I was tricked into believing certain people or doing certain things, whatever that might be, over the years. And it does take a lot of humility to admit that you are wrong. So
that's it, exactly. I think that you probably hit the nail there, because of what can they do? No, you can't go back in time. And now they're telling them that they've done all this research and actually that it was all, damaging, blah, blah, blah. That's right. And another thing you were talking about, one was, the dementia.
Rising dementia, yeah. I mean, that's all got to do with, you know, what they engineered in the lab. It's, you know, meant to take out the brain. The brain is part of the whole body. But there's multiple sides of this, okay? There is the aspect of, so I've interviewed Professor Garth Nicholson, and he was involved in the bioweapons program in Texas. They actually experimented on prisoners in Texas. And so this was many years ago. This was the Gulf War syndrome. So it's been going on for decades. And I was interested to see what he had worked on to help the Gulf War veterans recover. Because if you actually look at that cohort of people and what's happening today, it's very, very similar. And so his work focused on the cell membrane. So what was I saying? Yeah, so also part of that is the neurological. One of the interesting findings he made was that when the Gulf War veterans came back, their families got sick. So their wives would get sick, but the children were born with autism. And so it was passed, these neurological effects were actually passed down. Now we have these sort of multiple effects on our mitochondria and our cell membranes, which include the 5G, we've got screens, the blue light, lack of sunshine, you know, poor nutrition.
Whatever they're putting in food, yes.
Infections, and just feeling a sense of energetically low, you know, and that feeling that you were saying at the start of it. The reason why I'm so conscious of that is because I've fallen into heart failure before. So I understand that it's really important to get your emotional state right. As bad as the world is, you have to be really, really conscious of it, because you can actually get into a chronically diseased state, even if you do all the other things right. If you don't sort of reframe your life in such a way, like I would say to you, looking at your life, it would say, okay, look, it's reframed in a way. Look at the positive things that have happened since all of this started, and the knowledge that you've gained, the friendships that you've made, what you're doing here on the podcast, you know, as an expansive experience, and then let go of some of the other things, and then it will shift your perception of things so that you don't end up sick.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
That is my main thing, is that I've seen how easily it is to get, and not many people talk about it. And that's why with doom scrolling and stuff like that, I just think it's just too much for people, you know, like constantly there and not actually having a mechanism of what to do, which is why I try and write. It's like, okay, yes, there's all this stuff that you have to be aware of, but what can you actually do about it?
But don't sit in it. Don't sit in it all the time, which I don't exactly. I'm always trying to think of how I can work better, and I do every day. I kind of wake up and try to be very okay, new day, positive, blah blah blah. I don't sit in the negatives. It's just the weather.
I know, it's also expectation. It's because we probably wouldn't care so much if it was winter, right?
No, exactly.
But because it's November, it's coming to December, we're expecting a certain weather. So I've learnt to manage expectations. So one of the things that I like, for example, dealing with government departments, right? So when I deal with a government department, or I expect the worst. Like I think, okay, this is the worst outcome. I'm going to be on the phone for 3 hours or whatever. So if I'm off the phone in an hour, I'm like, yahoo. Do you know what I mean? And I actually had a win in the Administrative Review Tribunal the other day. It was after a 2.5 year battle. And these are, and I share this because I know a lot of people have various struggles with the system, and they sort of localize their own little individual battles. It could be with the power company or whatever. And it's kind of like, it just wears you down because it's one of those things to, you know, tick off the list. But when you understand how you can go about dealing with those issues and you finally tick it off, it's like, oh, yes, I've done it.
What was the one you had to deal with?
Yeah, so they I don't know if people realize, but, you know, various government departments, because they're short of money, are trying very hard to claw back through various means, essentially robo-debt, but it's still happening. So sort of data matching,
Oh,
whether
I
it's
remember that. Yeah.
the tax
Yeah.
office or so this involved my daughter's case. It went back and it was they were clearly wrong. But what happens is they basically forced you to get to a situation where you've got to go to administrative review, present your case, and then wait for the ruling. And I must say she was very good at the review section, and we won the case. So it was over $7,777.06.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
and when I saw that number, I was like, okay, we've won already, because when it got reviewed down to that number, I thought, okay, that's a good sign, you know. And but it took two and a half years and to finally resolve. That was you know, a longer journey. And I think that this is what they're doing too. They're wearing people down individually. So people do have to sort of know their rights and understand the law and how the system works. And if they don't, to reach out to someone they trust to be able to help them. It's kind of like going to the doctor. If you have to go and engage in the medical system in any way, always take a friend with you that
Or
knows
just find out what you've got and then you go and deal with it. Yeah. So that's kind of connecting with what we were talking about before we came on as well. You know, you're saying how you always felt like you shouldn't be working with friends or something because, well, I don't really know what the reason. Can't remember what you said. The reason wasn't such.
Yeah,
a
so I was thinking about this idea. You know how it says, "Don't mix business with friendship, and don't do business with friends." We've all been sort of conditioned into this particular idea. But I was thinking about how most of the wealthy people actually do. They do business with friends and family. They run family businesses, and it's actually we should be doing business with friends more. Like, obviously, don't screw each other over or anything. You know, look out for each other. But it's where we direct our money. You know, stop supporting these globalists. You know, buy local, use cash, direct. You know, support small businesses instead of these global chains. And whether that's buying a domain or hosting or, you know, a product from a friend, or, you know, starting a little co-op where you're buying organic goods together and reducing the price. You know, or if someone is selling, I don't know, makeup or whatever things that they're doing, the cottage businesses they're doing, we direct the energy. It's like someone said to me, you know, dream, believe, decide, achieve. This is how we change the narrative.
Dream, believe, decide, achieve.
We have to dream it. We have to believe it, because this whole world that they've constructed with the whole digital ID, and it's not going to work. Firstly, they need people. They're not going to be able to run it with robots like they tell you. This whole AI bubble is going to collapse at some point. And so their system is based not on truth. It's kind of like, you know, the .com bubble in the past. It's going to implode on itself. But how do ordinary people, how do we move forward? We move forward in our relationships with each other, you know, in believing for whatever business or whatever idea that you have that will help other people and help yourself too. And you support each other because this is how communities run, right?
And that's exactly it. And that's what, like I said too, this woman just asked, what is this chat about? Well, it's just a chat about life at the moment and how we can try and stay in the positive. And what we're talking about now is community. And like when I met with Maddalena yesterday, we were talking about how can we help each other? How can we help each other and help other women as well and bring people together? Because when you do, when you do things on your own, especially, you can be focused, you know what you're doing, but it can be way better to bring in other people's inputs and ideas so that you actually have a bigger picture of what your potential is. With the plays at the moment, I'm very stuck. I've got Marooned happening at the end of the halfway through December up in Colac, and I got a small grant to do it for the farmers, for the farming community. And I thought, wow, that's great. That means I can bring in a charity. I can bring in, that's exactly it, Madeline. I can bring in local groups, Rotary, whatever, and people can help spread the word to the farmers. Lots of milk farmers up there, dairy farmers up there, blah, blah, blah. I've sold 2 tickets.
Oh, no.
The charity, I won't mention who they are, whatever, but there's a significant charity up there that raises money all the time, and their whole thing is about talking. They believe in communication. Marooned is all about talking. Play's been going since 2017. It's proven over and over again that it actually is a powerful and really important play. We've had the army. We've been taken to this Canberra in front of the chief of army. We've had it, rural towns asking us to bring it to them. And they have had a free event for the community. But there's this particular charity don't want to connect. They've changed their mind. They did in the beginning. And then because of a certain aspect of the play, they thought shouldn't be there. Even though, as I said, the play works, they took their name back from it. And so without their support, I've kind of, I'm just jumping from one place to the next. And I'm doing it all by myself, because I want to continue doing the creative things. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I had somebody else that was working with me for a start, even someone up in the area, in the community of the country area, I wouldn't feel so much pressure. And that's a real stress for me at the moment. I'm really thinking, what should I do? I can't really move it. Anyway, so that just goes to the thing of, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we have to make these networks now. And and it's hard because a lot of us are quite isolated, and we're busy as it is with our own section of the world. And with Colac, I do know some people up in Colac, so maybe I could just pass.
Send it to you.
Maybe I guess it's sort of asking around. Like, firstly, no one knows if you're struggling, and maybe we as women, we're putting on a strong face. We're not saying, "Hey, look, I do need support." And you notice, like, there's certain people who never need support, who are multimillionaires, but they're always asking for support, and they always get it because there's sort of this arm's length distance, and people quite happily support the big names, but they generally don't want to support someone that they feel connected to, like as though they are somehow less worthy, even though they're actually probably more in need of that support.
Well, I mean, I didn't anticipate it to be so hard to get. Even the dairy farming, they have shared it through their community, through their social media and everything. But I think there's just this thing, because it's a play about suicide, about mental health. Yeah, that's why this particular group, they've changed their mind.
But that's a huge issue, though, isn't it? Why wouldn't they be supportive of it?
It's a huge issue. One farmer every 10 days takes their life. I've got electric hair. Takes their life. And the play doesn't say it can fix that, but it actually is an insight, and it's a piece that's very uplifting. People laugh during it. It's raw. It's a great piece of theatre anyway, but it's also giving a message. And I've had people come to see it who've attempted to take their life, and they've actually thought that's actually really cathartic. I've reached out in the last few months to so many people to see if they could help me, to be honest. And I've offered, like with that charity, I said we could give you some money out of every ticket, and I've done that to several places. I've got an interest in Geelong to put it on next year, but it's just now that I'm booked in, I need to just. Well, I'll get there. Here we go. I'll be positive. I will fill those seats as much as I can. Exactly the revelation I had this week. A lot of people don't know how I suffer, and even though it's closer to me, but I'm learning success more and more, helping connect. Yeah, so that's it. I've got another friend as well, Alicia Kim, who has struggles. She has an acquired what does she call it? A brain injury, that she fell down the stairs anyway. So, and people don't see how much she suffers and struggles by herself. And we have to be there. We have to be there for each other. Mental health is very important. Unfortunately, I lost my son. Oh my goodness. Lost your son to suicide last year. Absolutely. Michelle, get in touch with
Michelle? How old? I was just going to ask Michelle, how old is son?
How old was your son? And you see, the young people at the moment, I think, are struggling a lot. Not all, struggle. And to lose a son, absolutely, no one ever can understand that. And this play came from someone who's lost their son.
I mean, there's a sense that, you know, COVID happened, the lockdowns happened, we're all supposed to move on from that PTSD.
Yeah.
And especially the young people have been really seriously affected. They're not the same as what, you know, it's a generation that, oh my goodness, he was 20. I'm very sorry to hear that. I mean, I've had to, I've got a 19-year-old daughter who, you know, in a normal situation, people would be like, okay, what's she doing? You know, what course is she on? What's her life? And I'm just sort of, because she hasn't got that direction and she's very, very sensitive, I'm just kind of letting it go and letting her put her health and her own personal development first, rather than and I think that's because, you know, they lived through the lockdowns. 2 years of their life, especially in Melbourne, were taken from them. And it's it rocks the core of who you are, especially as a child, because they're in such a formative time. And I knew, like, I've known a few people whose children about that age, you know, they pushed them through VCE and at the end they were just burnt out and then decided that they were just going to sit at home and not do much, play video games, maybe do one shift at Kmart, or they're not very, they've been affected. And I had another friend whose daughter was about that age too, was suicidal, and she couldn't find mental health support around because all the psychologists are fully booked.
That's right. Or it was, you had to get online and do a Zoom thing, which was like so impersonal. But they had, I know, I've got a 21-year-old who's struggled since. And I'm the same. I'm just thinking, okay, well, just to sort out the emotional and your health, and you'll find what it is you are here for eventually, you know.
Just give them time to heal, do things together, support them in their journey. And look, for us, we've sort of tried to, my middle daughter is very intuitive, and she sort of thought we'd sort of come to a decision as a family to get off the screens from, even though I'm on now, but, you know, except for work and different things, 10 to 5 p.m, right? So no screens from that time and off at 10 p.m. And what I've noticed, we've done it for about 6 weeks, it's just in that my daughter, 19-year-old, it's just completely shifted her mood, completely. She's so motivated. And this is only 6 weeks in. She showed me a YouTube short she made the other day. And she just says, oh, you know, she got 250,000 views to it. And I was like, wow, you know, like she hasn't done this professionally. It was her first short that she had done. And I thought, wow, so, you know, it's interesting, even though you would think that would be a disadvantage to her to pull them off the screens for such a long period of time, get them out in the sun and all of the very basics. It actually was very powerful. You don't, you know, it's the little changes that you can make. Get them out to the sun. So she's been
for 6 weeks. She's actually stayed up for 6 weeks.
And it's just the first week, honestly, the first week was hell on earth. We thought that nothing was ever going to shift. She just basically tried to sleep all day, like some sort of but you know, she's very not compliant, but she, like, as my middle daughter has a lot of sway in the family. She's like the second mom. Maybe she's like the first mom. Even I'm afraid of her.
So there's 5, because Jeannie has 11 kids. So she's number in the middle. There's 5 on each side, very even.
Yeah. So she's always been that way, a very old soul. And I did struggle with it the first week. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? How is this all going to play out? Is she never going to come down from the room? And then look, and even my her closest sister to her, which is 17-year-old, says, oh, it's amazing. She never snaps at me anymore. You know, her mood is completely changed. We do things that she enjoys doing, and some of them might be like, gosh, she loves going out for dinner up in the city, so we'll catch a train and do that together. But I reflected on how much in this particular age group were affected by the lockdowns and all the restrictions and all the complete craziness. And while we were trying to fight and save the world, their mental health, they may not have shown it, you know, but their health and their emotional health, they really felt it on a very energetic level. And sometimes I think a lot of shame as parents, as mothers, that we could have protected them more, or we could have, you know, like we don't want to talk about it, right? We don't want to talk about our children. It's sort of, you know, after all, everything has to be shiny and perfect on social media. But essentially, what we've lived through is incredible trauma, and people need to acknowledge that, and we can't just brush it off and move on. You know, these children in their developmental years will grow up in a different time. It's their formative years. We're going to have to be a little bit more gentle on them. We can't force them to do things that they don't want to do, because it'll just push them over the edge. I mean, it was kind of forced, but it wasn't. You know, she agreed to it, but she could see we rationalized with her about the screen time, what it was doing to her body. And
was she someone who was on more than the others then, or just?
No, everyone was on. I think the whole COVID thing just trained us all on to be sort of almost addicted to social media, because it's almost like, you know, when Dan Andrews would get up there and every minute it was like, oh yes, we're going to announce the 5-kilometer limit or whatever. Right? So essentially before that, no one really cared about the news. But then it was like, okay, we've got to watch the news for our own survival. What if we miss a rule and we get caught and the police, you know, jam us to the ground or something? So all of us were in some ways conditioned to watch the news, and also they locked us down, so we had nothing else to do. So, you know, and it would pop up on the feed, 7 News.
Obviously,
I think that even they were sort of conditioned to be, and there's a whole lot of studies talking about short-sightedness and how it's big amongst the young as well, which is all linked to also nutritional deficiencies, lack of sunshine, you know.
Short-sightedness, Yes. Well, I have to say, my daughter's eyes have got worse in the last few years, like far. Short-sightedness, and she screens all. But this is the thing. At the time, we really didn't know how detrimental it was all going to be, like especially in the beginning, because it's like, wow, let's go for a big walk. We don't have to go to school. Your kids don't go to school or didn't, but you know, all the institutional stuff was stopped, and it was almost a simplified life for a little while until it became the more like a prison, you know, and realizing, this is not just a couple of weeks, or this is not just going away. It's becoming more and more restrictive, more and more rules, and lockdowns were godsend with autism. I loved it. My daughter's the same. Well, but the thing is, it still has had and perhaps has had an impact.
I don't think it would have had an impact on my children, because, as you said, we were all homeschooled. But then I realized, well, we didn't choose it, right? It wasn't.
That's it. Mine's also recently found out that there were so many kids who weren't listening and they were doing things, and she's like, oh, I didn't even realize that was happening. So I feel they call it FOMO, fear of missing out.
I think there was another comment earlier on, Rahana, that someone had written a little while back.
All a marketing tactic, that one.
For that.
Impact on normal people. Yeah, I understand. So is it the PTSD?
Yep, that
So,
one I saw. That.
yeah, I now have PTSD diagnosed since being triggered from lockdowns. I can't even imagine what that does to you. Yeah. Well, what it is, I think, as well, it's like you said, it's sort of exacerbated the fact that everything's has to be perfect online. They have to be just always given a certain version of themselves, not just a bad headache or whatever. I've never quite got my background right. It has to be absolutely, and then they can do anything with it as well. All the changing the, what do you call it? The visual thing they can change themselves and
Filters.
Yeah, filters.
Yeah, but also I think it's on this sense that a lot of people say, oh well, young people today don't have motivation to do X, Y, and Z like we did in the past. But why would they have it? Firstly, there's no incentive. You can't literally buy a house, right? Like what looking around us, houses are $1 million or whatever. But also there's a sense that, okay, if I do study or I do a certain thing, it can be taken away from me in an instant. Like that's what we live through. If I don't comply with the system, it can be taken away from me. So how do we help younger people to navigate that time? And I think there's that need to find a tribe, to find people that you can rely on and trust. And I don't know how we can create that. That sometimes I don't even think they know they need it. That they need that support system around them.
I agree. Yeah.
And we need it too. I mean,
your kids are they good with each other? I mean, I've met 5 or 4.
Yeah. So that they are each other's support system.
Yeah.
So because I did choose to homeschool. I've been homeschooling since 1996. So my children are very close. And so if there are parents out there right now considering it, if you're looking at the long-term relationship for each other and your family, if you can make that decision, it's probably the best decision you'll ever make, because the system is not getting any better unless you can find a school that is very aligned to your values and energy. It's otherwise it'll just sort of split you as a family.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even trust. So with all your kids, do they let other people in as well? Do they have like other friends who come in, and like sometimes there's a mix of people? Or is it just like if one of them has a friend, that's their friend outside only?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if someone's accepted, it's like a whole family. Like
A whole family
that's how
friend.
it was, right? It's welcome, like we welcomed you at the dance thing to come and sit with us, right? It wasn't like you were just my friend. When we were,
You're the only one I could talk to there.
But like I think that's what in the past people used to be. They used to be family connections, and actually I saw this TikTok about it. I thought it was very interesting. This TikTok, she said that in London, when she lived in London, people were much less cliquey. So for example, you might meet someone at the bathroom, you really click, enjoy, and you might introduce her to your friends, and then all of a sudden she's connecting with your friends and their friends, and she's now immersed in that particular circle. But what she was saying was it was a little different in Melbourne, and how people have their specific groups, so it might be your school friends or your uni friends or your work friends, but they don't kind of mix together. And if, say, one of your school friends met one of your work friends, they might not just, become friends themselves and then form their own, like create a wider network. And I was thinking, what that is. I mean, I've noticed it.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I've lived in London quite a lot. But when I was there last, I would, because I was always doing acting things, I more associate with people who I met through that. They come and go friends often, or there were some people who I connected with and stayed with, but most people I always met through what I was doing, which I suppose what people do, but I don't. I do think perhaps you're right about Melbourne being quite is cliquey, I suppose, isn't it? Cliquey, where
social situations gave him a lot of anxiety, and it made him very ill. He would vomit every morning before work and have these horrible Panic attacks.
See,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Obviously, are you in Melbourne, Michelle? That it's just awful that, like, your son is a perfect example of someone who shouldn't have to. Well, he should be just accepted, I suppose. Obviously, he felt ostracized, and that's the kind of the judgy thing, isn't it? You know, you can't be a bit different. You can't be whatever. Connection is everything. Yeah, Melbourne's lost in a lot of ways at the moment. I'd love to know how many people have left the city. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have my kids here, I have to say.
Sort of a dark energy about the place. It's lost its shine in a way.
At the moment, I find everything very hard to do. Yeah, with the theatre, it's very difficult. I think even probably Sydney would be easier, even though I don't know how we can afford to live there. But yeah, I've got a lot of lovely friends here, though. So yeah,
we can't all leave.
No.
I think it is a matter of finding that time to make the effort to connect on a individual level to people around, catching up. And I did catch up with a friend on a weekend who hadn't seen him for 6 months, and I thought he was telling me about how he was going through a period of grief with his teenage daughter separated. And I was thinking to myself, oh, so all this time you've been sort of suffering in silence. You know, that we have this way of not being able to reach out when we really need, or whether we are risk adverse to how that might be received by other people. But we're going to go through I think probably COVID was a bit of a test run to how things will continue. Melbourne's probably a good place to be in that I don't know if they'll be able to pull off another pandemic version 2.0 here, because people
they're not even going to pull off the digital, like you say. No one's going to do it. We're all going to find ways around it, and we're sick of them trying to control. That's it.
And you can see that a lot more businesses are taking cash. You know.
Yeah, well, they say cash or card. Like, well, cash, obviously, yeah. I have lots of friends here, Jan, yeah, and they're all most people I've met in the last 5-6 years. And the thing is, I have to say, I'm an offloader these days. I just talk it out, and I want people to do that to me as well. And that seems to be the way I've met more and more people. Just we are all similar but different. You know, we've got stuff that's very much the same, and we don't have to feel ashamed of it. We don't have to feel like we're going to bore people if we say something, or, you know, they're going to have, think I'm offloading all my problems onto them, because they can do it back. Brunswick was hands down the most painful place to live, because community there is abysmal. Back in Preston, yeah. Well, there was a big community where I am, but I don't see. Yeah.
It's interesting though. Some communities are different. I noticed. I went to a party from an older lady that I actually met on the beach in Anglesey. So she invited me to a street party, and she lived in Williamstown. And Williamstown is actually a very cute spot because of where it is. Yeah. It's like a little country town inside Melbourne. And you do have these suburbs that are little pockets where it's a bit better than others. And I guess it's sort of finding local connections, and you may not fully align with different people, but I think it's really important to find people locally that you can, you know, connect with and rely on.
Yes. Well, that's what I have found. I mean, that's one friend who's down the road, who she has a little 2-year-old by herself, and sometimes I help her. You know, there's a few around that I have formed connections with in this area, and then I've got a whole group more. I've got way more. I've got tons of people. Huh?
Also, there was a comment that we missed there, which was the last one.
I think you're talking about when she's talking about her poor son, how he the last, if you're in Melbourne, Michelle, please reach out to me, because
Michelle, I mean, I know we all have these regrets of, we should have done something, but a lot of times we don't know that there's anything wrong. I mean, I feel the
certainly
same.
can't blame yourself, and that's also like with this play Marooned, it's very good for the people who are a survivor, like you're a survivor, because you're here to come to terms with what's happened, and it's not your fault. That's it. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like even the guy who the play comes from, a guy called Guy May, who is an actor. And he was, he was a little bit up and down, apparently, often, but he had this interaction with a girlfriend, and now I think about it, she should have been taken, arrested for this. She encouraged him in a way that she said, you wouldn't do that. You're too weak, or to take your own life, sort of thing. And he did. He did. And his mother was a social worker, and so she has huge regrets. Not regrets, but shame. She feels like she couldn't stop her own son. I mean, he was a grown man. He was 48, but so you can't. It's their journey, and you don't know. Like Jeannie says, you don't actually know really where they are.
But you can live with someone and you may not really know them, because you're just doing the sort of day interactions, and they're not opening up to you either about what's going on inside. And they may not even understand what's going on inside them as well. I almost feel like it's the whole structure of how our society is right now. Everyone's in their own box, your work box, your school box, your own box. And it's not very conducive to mental health or relationships. Right? It's not supportive. This whole competitive environment that we're living in, where everyone's competing for a few scraps, or worried about whether, the next paycheck comes in, or whether they're going to be made homeless.
Boxes, you're right, absolutely. Boxes, yes. I was going to say something, but connect to what you just said then about you don't really know what's going on with them. Well, sadly, women attempt it more, but it's more of a cry for help often. We don't succeed. And but men often just do it very out of the blue. They don't plan it, so much. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say anything. This is the kind of stuff that there's none of this in the play, to be honest. But it's like, you can have a suicide prevention play, but you can't really go connect with anything to do with suicide almost. That's what they want. I don't know how you can do that. You have to have something that really puts it out there into people's, and go, wow, okay, so that's what suicide can do. That's what it can feel like. But also these are very everyday human beings. And so that's why we get them offside, and people are laughing, because like, wow, these are people I know. People are very good at hiding emotions, and they are feeling, and don't beat yourself up about it. Yeah. I went through something similar with my boy, struggling emotionally and mentally. I don't know. I didn't know either. Thank goodness I picked up on it, and yeah. The facts make it real.
And maybe to help people out here who are listening right now to sort of, look out for each other. Especially the children, you just can't assume that they're doing okay inside. And I think that last year I also made this thing where, I know I've got 11 children, but where you just go one-on-one as a parent and have dinner with them or lunch with them. It's a very different dynamic to eating as a family or something. You learn something different about each child, and it gives them an opportunity. If I didn't have so many, I'd probably do it more often.
Yeah.
But
I haven't been in a situation myself now. It's just me and my daughter.
Yeah.
I make sure I go to see my son a lot, though. You know, I make sure that I give him time.
Yeah, and where you say to them, you know, is there anything you want to share with me, or you know, like hopefully open up that safe spot.
Both of my kids talk to me a lot, which is actually really good. Yeah. But you're right. You have to give them full attention. Otherwise, I feel like they're a nuisance or something, and they can't really. You know, if you're always busy or blah blah blah, which we are all busy, but you have to. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we don't want to get sad. Let's be happy, because remember, we have to. I mean, I'm sad for you, Michelle. That's horrendous. Obviously, that's tragic, and obviously really new, and you're not going to get past that. I know I've got another friend who lost their son earlier this year. We weren't quite sure whether it was suicide or not. And he was 18. And your life is obviously completely changed now. I'm looking down there at her. Yeah, so so many things being thrown at us, you know, things you're putting out there a lot. After this, there was that trans. Well, she had a mastectomy at, what was it, 13?
Yeah,
that was horrendous. All of those sort of things we're getting fired at. We're seeing all of it, but we're seeing a lot of the opposite now.
Well, from America, they've come along and been sort of they're now pushing the anti sort of woke agenda in America, so trans, whereas in Victoria it's still I don't know, some 10-year jail sentence if you try and convert someone the opposite way.
You serious?
Yeah, it's in law. We probably, you know, like it's crazy, some of the things that kind of got snuck through. And I think a lot of parents don't realize when your children are in the system how captured they can be.
Yes.
By it.
Well, some of the books very young that they've been, you know, reading to kids.
They're looking at putting it through like preschools right now. You know, I've got a whole a recording was sent to me actually in 2022 about how they were going to introduce things like pronouns and all of this gender stuff within, you know, not creches, but they call childcare centres and all of that. And so
not even kindergarten, right?
But I think what will happen is it'll get to a certain point and then it'll flip. You know, like it's all and you know, people have lost a lot of respect for the medical system. Even I think mainstream people, you know, they're looking towards more of a natural approach to health. It's you know, like you don't even have to explain what organic is. Like 20 years ago or so, I would have to explain what organic was, but now you know, you don't have to explain that to me. So I think it's more of a generational change that's happening, and the children that will get through this period of time will be able to I guess take us through as well. I mean, there's a lot of positive things happening within the children as well. It's really being able to support them in that, and why I think they also want to ban social media to some degrees, that they're, especially TikTok, they're not very happy with that particular app, because there's a lot of things.
Who does?
Well, the establishment don't really like TikTok. I mean, during the COVID thing, Hotshot was trending on TikTok. So a lot of the young people were aware of what was going on through that app, whereas it was it was hard work here on Facebook and all the other platforms to get any information out there. And so I think sometimes we might have to, like even Cafe Lucked Out, think about, you know, trying to reach more of the younger people and the younger audience somehow, because they are our future, the children.
Oh, well, I've always said that about reaching. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really associated with Cafe Locked Out anymore myself. I just
okay, yeah,
stream on there. I mean, I'm not associated. Just we're connected, but this is very different. And I don't really know what I'm going to do with it in the future. But you know, I'm going to have to get my emails changed as well and things like that. But I have said that for a while. You know, I've had this guy from England there's a few very younger people in England really standing up and talking, and I did get him on Cafe Locked Out. But I agree. I don't really know how to do that because obviously they're going to sit here and watch this, but they've got to have their own. Have any of you 11 want to do their own podcast?
Yeah, I've actually, you know, just thinking about ideas of how do you get young people engaged with each other in even the real world. I mean, some of them do online gaming seems to be a way that people connect.
Yeah, I mean, my son was big on that, and he does it still, and he does meet a lot of people, but he doesn't do it to the extent, thank goodness. But I don't know, because they don't really know who they're talking to and everything, you know.
It's a tough question. We're sort of connected digitally online, but in some ways that can also separate us from the real world. You know what I mean? Like we get our fix of connection, being connected digitally to so many people, and then we don't necessarily need to be connected locally. But sort of a bit of a catch-22, and even with the children, it's a bit the same, isn't it?
I think it's a way of getting the connection going, and then we need to now follow that through somewhere else or outside, offline. You know,
you had an event, didn't you? Like you had an event that
I was going to have one. I was
going
going
to have one.
And I probably the next event, which is connected, isn't it's a market. But Maddalena set that up in near Taylor's Lakes. We talked about it yesterday on a live. And that's, if anyone wants to come to that everybody is, in Melbourne, obviously, invited, but we're not putting out the address and things like that. It's an artisan market, and she's going to have some music there and food, and I'm going to go and selling her products, and other people there's a raw chocolate thing, there's this and that. I haven't got the thing, but yeah, so if anyone wants to come to that, I'll put a thing up again, but we won't put up where it is because it's private, you know, only like 4 people who are, if you want to come, you approach, and then we'll suss out whether we think we want you coming. But it's on the other side of Melbourne, but still, I did go there once and it wasn't that difficult to get to. But that's, yeah, I think event wise, I'd like to have a physical event, definitely. I think that would be a really nice thing to do, and have all the people who've come on here, and just start that in-person community thing. Yeah,
we did that during lockdowns and everything a lot. That was quite big. I feel like sometimes after all of it blew over, people just kind of went back to their normal lives, but then they became disconnected even within their normal lives to the people that were there. Like we had down in the park. There's also a group of crunchy mums that met around Bayside. There's like 400 in the Facebook group.
Wow.
That used to meet.
Well, then we should reinstate them, because the stand at the park's still going, but I went to the last one and there was just me and one other woman there. It's like, wow. Everybody's heading off now because after 11. So I will say goodbye, and I'm going to have to get on and do some marketing. I'll send you the thing about Marooned. If anyone does know anyone in the Coley Lackey area, that's also down the Torquay and Apollo, I don't know, other parts connected. Let me know, because if they haven't seen it, it's a fantastic play. Events, yes, well, we will. And we need to get some.
I've got some arty friends down that way.
Oh,
So,
fantastic. Yeah.
well, I haven't seen them for many years, but I'm sure that you could connect to them. And
Yeah. Well, we're doing an evening one. Thanks, Michelle. And an 11 o'clock on a Saturday one. That's for the farmers. But yeah, we'll have to see how many I get. But I hope it's all going to turn around. But thanks so much, Jeannie, for coming
all
on.
right.
And yeah, keep plugging. I've put her blog website in the things. Let's just put it up again though. If you want to check you out, Something Wisdom.
Yeah, come and connect with me on LinkedIn if you want. But always lovely to chat, Rahana.
What's your wisdom? What's your website called again? I'm putting it up.
Oh yeah,
Sleepy.
uncensoredwisdom.com.
Uncensored wisdom.com.
Yeah.
.au?
No, don't do .au.
.com. Yep, uncensoredwisdom.com. Yeah, great. See you at the tap dancing thing.
Yeah, see you at the concert or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
I am not just a product made to satisfy the pocket, nor do I require the same fame others seek. I desire your heart, the passions that make you a woman, any woman, every woman. My scents are a representation of purpose, courage, confidence, each botanical ingredient a praise of thanksgiving and self-care. The way I feel upon your flesh, a comfort of nourishment, as I feed dehydrated and depleted layers of skin, bursting for a new life of regrowth and youthfulness. If I stir your soul with each application, let it be known that you, too, are an intimate duet woman.